Hello, everyone, and welcome to Schmidtless Live. I am your host, Kurt Schmidt, president and partner at Foundry, and this show is meant to inspire and educate leaders in tech and design like yourself. Today, we're going to be talking about business development, actually virtual business development these days. How does it work? What's changed? And what can we expect in the future? I'm really excited today because I have a good friend of mine, Ryan. He's going to be joining us to talk about his experience over the last year and what he's looking forward to in the next year. So I'm going to jump right in and start chatting with Ryan, if you don't mind. So we'll see you over there. Ryan, how's it going?
Hey, Kurt.
How are you today?
Good.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah. A white October, I could just said, right?
Christmas in October.
Yeah.
So Ryan, what do you do? Where are you at right now? Give us a little background so we can understand who we're talking to.
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, thanks for having me on.
Of course.
It's an honor. We are good friends. Know each other for a couple of years. I've been a big fan. I follow the podcast.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I love what you've done here. And I've got some questions for you about how you pivoted to live video in this world. So,
all right.
And then, of course, you've had some of my favorite people in Minnesota on the show, Josh Feedy, McLean.
Very lucky.
Yeah, really quick. And even the podcast, Jason Surslick you had on, who's actually a colleague of ours now.
Yeah, Jason is amazing.
Really impressive people. So I'm humbled to be a part of it.
I'm excited you're here. I'm excited about this topic.
Yeah, absolutely. And so let me get in, I guess, back to your original question. I work for a consulting firm here in the Twin Cities, Solution Design Group, SDG. And I've been there about 7 years now. And we do software development, custom app development, really all things digital transformation for our clients, from design to development to implementation, DevOps. We have roughly 160 full-time consultants that work for us. We're actually an ESOP, been voted best places to work. Really great organization, and I've been fortunate to be a part of. And my role specifically is an account executive, so working with clients to help identify areas that we can help them build, design, create, make their dreams come true, right? All those things.
Yep, all those things.
It's been a great run. Absolutely, I love the industry. I was not from software development. I can maybe share a brief story of how I got to SDG.
Tell us how you tripped and fell into software development.
A little bit of luck, a little bit of persistence, maybe. SDG was actually, well, I say they were a client of mine. I worked for ADP, Automatic Data Processing, which was a great organization, fast-moving transactional sales role. But I built a relationship with SDG as they were a prospect of mine. And the truth is, ultimately, I never actually sold them anything, but 2 years of calling on them, they asked me to join them, and had done some soul searching on what I wanted to do in my future, and ultimately said yes, and it's been amazing. So, and I did hear, somewhere early on in my sales career that, the highest form of flattery is having a client ask you to join them or to hire you. And so that really was. And of course, they had already been voted the best places to work and just looked like a really neat organization. And it's been nothing but that since. It hasn't been easy. Nothing is. But it's been a fun ride. And so we're in similar worlds there, Kurt. I think that's how we've been connected. So that's right. Certainly understand that piece. And so
good.
In normal days, it's a lot of fun. And now I think business is going really well, but it's certainly different.
It's very different.
Yeah.
Well, and to your point, Ryan, like I didn't grow up in my career. I was a developer and a designer earlier on, and grew into leadership over time. And over the past few years, I've kind of had to learn the account and sales and business development side of things, and it's been an interesting journey. I in the beginning, so I was lucky. I worked with some amazing salespeople and account executives at previous places and learned a lot from them. And I think the biggest thing I learned is obviously building personal relationships with folks, and I think that's the thing that people get wrong about sales, right? Is that it's not about going out and just trying to, replicate what you experience on a daily basis with spam email and spam LinkedIn messages and all those different things. The type of work that you do, right? It's really about building those relationships, right? It's not about just spamming people 7 emails in a week, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you had a really good conversation with Rich Brocken a couple weeks ago on the show too, about the spam emails, about building relationships. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think the ultimately where SDG has worked out really well for me is the core values align with my own, of course, but then just the role lends itself to building relationships, and that's the part that I really, really enjoy. And I think in our industry too, Kurt, is maybe selling something for the first time is really where it starts. And they're very long sales processes, if you will. It's almost, oftentimes there's not even a sales process. It's building a relationship, it's creating rapport, it's building trust, and then aligning the stars on an opportunity to work together.
Yeah. Well, I think in an agency like ours, timing is a huge part of that, because you might build a relationship with someone and see that you can deliver some value to them. They would be a valuable partner, but the timing just isn't right. So to your point, those cycles about finding an opportunity to find a way to work together, because that's the way I look at it, is let's find a way to work together because it'd be fun to work together, not because I need to hit a quota, not because I need to hit a number, not because I have people sitting on the bench or all those things, right? It's like, hey, your business is cool, you're pretty cool, like let's find a way to work together.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? And I think a little bit of it, our industry lends itself to that, but I think you have to build those relationships where you can ask clients oftentimes to wait for the right timing, or to be asked, hey, we missed out on this opportunity because they don't have availability, but can we circle back on the next one? And to be continually added to that short list of people they call is really the biggest form of flattery and sales. I'd circle back. I think it touches on the same principle. I actually heard Scott Burns talk about it. Scott from Structural.
Yeah. Great guy.
Again, one of my favorite people in Minnesota too. Fantastic. But he had talked about, actually, on Mikolai Bador's Coffee and Closers show a couple years ago, about his idea of forever prospects. And that's something that just has always resonated with me. And maybe I didn't have a name for it, but essentially being able to go after or work with people that you want to, and to put in the effort and not necessarily be transactional, but to build relationships, like we've talked about.
Yep.
And not to have, and there's always going to be quotas. There's always going to be a bench. There's going to be, but I think those are sometimes more internal pressures you put on yourself to help contribute and to help your business succeed. And not having that transactional, desperate pleas for business, I think also help when trying to establish, because I think people see through those things. Like you said, the generic emails. One, I wanted to make a point about, you had Paul the Beddings on the show yesterday, right? Mm-hmm. And obviously I've followed him for a long time. He's fantastic. I don't have any slides prepared for today, so sorry.
That's okay. You're not going to drop a 25-page deck on me 10 minutes before the show starts? I'm glad to hear that.
Paul's fantastic, and he's really good at what he does, right?
He is, he's great.
And he talks about LinkedIn. And I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. I think it's a wonderful tool. It's probably, actually, Paul put it really, really well. It's like a hub. It's not the only place I find information. It's not the only place I reach out to prospective clients or connections, but it's a really great start and hub. But one thing I noticed, and we can transition into what this world is now, right? I think when all of us got sent home, for lack of a better term, LinkedIn was nuts. Everybody was sitting at home, and instead of commuting to work, they were scrolling through LinkedIn or starting their day there, and the interactions were great. Mm-hmm. The attention was really great. But then there was also, I think everybody's, pardon me, bullshit meter got really high. Everybody went, I don't know, maybe to genuinely concerned for everybody else. And it almost became, even from an organizational standpoint, the pitch, which, and I think, again, I think it's funny, but one of my favorites, you see people, unfortunately, in this time, like with new positions, right, or seeking new opportunities. And I can't tell you how many times I've gone on LinkedIn and see someone, new job title, seeking next opportunity.
Yep.
And then the first 10 comments are, congratulations, great job, like, good luck in your next role. And it's like, wow, like, I mean, I know we're all moving fast, but like,
yeah,
I
not
know,
even to pay attention at all.
yeah. So, and I think that's probably part of it. Next, in working into this virtual world, and I could talk about some of the tools that I've used and some of the things I like. I think first and foremost, I don't really care for it, Kurt. I think when you talk about what's changed, back in March and before that, I was going to lunch and happy hour for a living.
Yeah.
I was going to networking events. I like that. I get a lot of energy from being around people.
Well, and that's the
So
thing for me, Ryan. I think you and I both talked about it. Like, once, like you put it well, like once we all got sent home, I kind of freaked out a bit. As like, I can't go to events. I can't go to get coffee. I can't go to happy hours. I can't go to lunch. Like what am I going to do? How am I going to build relationships with people? This is going to be disastrous.
yeah.
And did you have the same things going through your mind?
Oh, at first I thought we were going to be home for 2 or 3 weeks, and this will be,
Right.
neat. I'll get to spend some time. I have 3 young children,
Yep.
which at this point are a good chunk of my day-to-day career,
Yep.
with homeschooling and sharing my office with my wife. But yeah, I thought at first it was like, hey, we'll work from home for a couple of weeks and we'll all get back to real life when the snow melts. Um, and obviously that happened. So I don't think it wasn't immediate, but then after that, when it started to get real or uncertain for a pretty serious amount of time, that, wow. And I don't think I've necessarily given myself enough credit or given the situation enough credit, that this has been really hard, that it's just been so different from my day. I'm able to do my job, but it's completely different than it was.
Yeah.
And I was thinking a lot before our call or this show today, is I think I've been extremely fortunate to have had 6 years with SDG to build those relationships that I can leverage, to work on. Again, Paul made another really great analogy yesterday about the boat on the shore, right? About your networking. Like, and I always say, like, what is it, the old proverb or something, like, the best time to start networking is 20 years ago, and the next
Right.
best time is today.
Yep.
And unfortunately, again, like, I've been connected to a lot of people this year that are, and a lot of really great leaders that are looking for new opportunities and feel like they've neglected it. And so I think first and foremost, you should always be network. And I hate that term, networking, but you should always be meeting with people and making friends. It's the best part about sales. It's the best part about my role, our roles. And to your point, Kurt, we get to work with some amazing people here in town.
Yeah, I get to learn so much from the partners we work with, the people we have on the show. It's just a great opportunity. But that's why I wanted to get into it with you, Ryan, about what has been working for you this year, in terms of building those relationships virtually. Now, when you and I both, our muscles were hey, you want to let's meet at 3, let's go to this place and let's hang out and let me show you some things, and we'll chat, and now all that's pretty much done. I think I've had like 2 coffees this year or something.
Yeah.
But what's been working for you? What have you seen out there that's not working?
Yeah. Let's start with what's not working, right? And I think to your point, is blasting people, not being genuine with your concern. I'd seen something on LinkedIn that I really resonated with too. Like, almost everybody starts their emails or communications with "hope you're doing well" or "hope you're safe," "hope the family is well." And even that's a little bit disingenuous, right? I'm reaching out to ask for something for the most part. Can I add that to the bottom? Like, hey, I'm looking for some of your time to talk to you about this or to share what's new with SDG. Can I get some of your time? And then, how are you doing? And hope you're doing well. I think what's worked really, and so I just think the blanket emails never really work. I've always been a huge proponent of personalization. In fact, like actually another local legend, Sam Richter, if you've ever heard of him, I think in this Minnesota Speaker Hall of Fame, but he wrote a book called Take the Cold Out of Cold Calling 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And ultimately, and this is a good point, like 10 years ago, he was talking about all the amount of information that is on the internet or out there to find out about your prospects, your clients, your dream clients, if you will, right?
Yep, 100%.
And now 10 years later, I mean, everything's out there.
Yep.
And it's impressively lazy to not do any research before reaching out to someone, to not try to understand how you can connect on a personal level to break through. Because like, and maybe you can answer this, Kurt, like you're president of, like, how many cold emails, messages, minutia do you go through daily?
Yeah, a ton daily. And what's interesting to me, and I get I get guff from other peers, because sometimes I'll respond to them, they'll be like, I'll get, and this is what drives me crazy. Back to your point about that idea of forever prospect or whichever, right? I'll have somebody reaching out saying, "Hey, I can offer you this. Hey, I can offer you this. Hey, just pinging you again because I didn't know if you saw the last one. Hey, okay, this is going to be my last follow up." And then, okay, hey, no, this is really going to be my last follow up. And then I might respond and say, because I have a free moment, right? And I'll respond and say, "Hey, thanks for reaching out, but we don't have a need for your services right now, but I'll keep you in mind if we do in the future." And then I'll just get like an, "Okay, thanks." Like, just, "Okay, thanks." Like, just like, it's like you spent all this time, or your bot spent all this time messaging me, and then you get a response, say a friendly response, not telling you to go pound sand. And then I just get back, "Okay," and to me, again, that's where I get it, because I think this sometimes comes from bad leadership, where in an organization, it is about the numbers, it is about quantity, right? So in other places I've worked, they calculated that they closed 30% of deals, right? So in order to hit a certain number for the year, you have to acquire X amount of deals. And so the only way to acquire those X amount of deals is to send these amount of messages to gain this amount of leads. And so it was all calculated, it was all engineered in, and sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. They didn't know why. And it's like, because this is a human problem, it's not a math problem. It's back to what we said, it's a timing problem. So if you are just doing these blanket messages and you're wondering why your business isn't growing, or your leads and your sales and your things aren't closing, you should really be taking a look at that. How is leadership driving what success looks like, or how do they qualify success? I can be honest, at Foundry, for example, we try to get one new partner a quarter. That's it. That's our goal, is to find one new partner a quarter. And I don't care what size of engagement we have with them. It could be a 1-day workshop. It could be a 2-year long custom software build. It doesn't, but all I'm concerned with is that trying to go after that part. If I went after numbers or things like that, like, it would just ruin the way that I approach it. Now, yeah, I get it. If you're a 500 person company, maybe that's not going to work exactly. But I don't know, Ryan, in your opinion, you're working for a sizable organization. How do you balance I've got to get leads coming in. I got to get leads coming in. And then, I also need to build relationships.
Yeah, they're good questions. And I'm really sympathetic to some of the leadership, like you mentioned, in large organizations where a lot of times you're leading from a spreadsheet, or you're making decisions from a spreadsheet of transactional sales. So I've been in that world, and like I said, I've definitely got some sympathy for leadership there, and just how you have to make decisions and move fast. But I think one of my least favorite cliches, comments about like sales is a numbers game, and I just despise that, because I don't believe it's true, or at least, and I can only speak for myself, right? So I don't want sales to be a numbers game. I want sales to be relationships and building trust. And like we've talked about this before, Kurt, our organizations are similar. At SDG, we're looking for partners.
Yep.
And that doesn't mean we're looking to close a deal tomorrow if it's not the right fit. In fact, one of my favorite things about organization is how often we have to say no, or to pivot and say, hey, we're not the right partner for that.
Yep.
And that's helped build some trust. Now, when you're first starting out as a salesperson and you get an opportunity and you're super excited, and then your leadership says, hey, it's not the right fit, Ryan, and in the long run, it's going to be bad for you and it's going to be bad for SDG. Like, so again, back to leadership.
Mm-hmm.
I've been very fortunate, certainly at SDG, to be surrounded by leadership that trust the process. And
yep.
I think
and
even
they have
when
a
I
strong
started,
vision of who they want to be and who they want to work with, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's important, because if you're driven just by the bottom line, then that's what's going to drive all of your decisions. And so you can tell when you're working with a place like that versus a place that's looking to make a dent in the universe in some cases.
Oh, yeah,
right?
Take over the universe. Yeah, and we, in our businesses, Kurt, we're dealing with people too, right? With consultants, with clients, more so than selling a software product. And so there's some inherent challenges with that, but there's also, for me, the greatest rewards. And I think when we keep that in mind, and we're actually working, like, essentially I am selling the services that our consultants provide. And so it's important to understand that it's going to be the right fit for the consultant, because if they're happy, they'll do great work, and it's going to be the right opportunity for. And so that part's been really, really fun, and a side of myself that I didn't know I wanted to work with, or as much. And then, working for a relatively small organization, we're 200 employees. I get to be part of marketing and sales and retention and recruiting and all those things, which is really, really fun. But I think get back to your question too, and what's work. I think if I was thinking about the other day, things that always work, Kurt, are leading with value. Again, I think you and Rich talked about this, but if you can find ways to add value first, to lead with value, I think leveraging your network always is valuable, probably now more so than ever. And so, which, again, may be easy for you to say, Ryan, you've been doing this for 7 years, you've made some great relationships, you start calling your old friends, right? But everybody has a network, and everybody has something to offer. And I think one of the things that I've realized over the last few years as well is that I do have something to offer to everyone, even if it's just listening. I do get introduced to quite a few people who are looking for new roles, or maybe exploring new opportunities. And before, I was a little self-conscious of, could I provide any value? Is my network big enough to share?
Right.
Right. And oftentimes we talk about golf or our kids or snow in October. And I think everybody has something to offer. Everybody has a unique value to add, not whether it's with their organization or themselves. And so,
well, and those are the things you're going to remember over. Do they have 5 years experience with Salesforce? Or, and those are the, and what I found really valuable, because I too, same thing, Ryan, is that when I started doing a lot of career coaching this year, just because, personally, I would be freaking out if I was out of work this year. Because all of my career has come from my network, has come from people I know. And to all of a sudden have that kind of be pulled out from underneath you, made me realize, like, okay, now's the time to double down and try to help people with finding those careers. And what the value that I didn't even see coming out of it is that these people have carried me with them to their new jobs in a way. And I've got introduced to even a broader network and more new organizations. So to your point about that leading, I love that, leading with value, because if I'm just going out there and saying, like, how can I get you in a piece of custom software today, and I don't get any response, I shouldn't be surprised. But if I go out there and I help a professional find their next job, help them clean up their resume, introduce them to my network, a year later they might be like, hey, this is Jill over in technology, and I mentioned what you guys do, and she'd love to have a capabilities meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this will resonate with everybody here in the Twin Cities, right? Is that it's such a small town, especially in IT and in leadership. And it's also just such a great place for people that want to help. People like yourself, Kurt, that I know you've taken any meeting that you possibly can sneak into your calendar to help. And so I think we're in a unique space here in the Twin Cities that people do want to help. And so you should have a little less fear about asking for help, as long as you're willing to reciprocate it, right?
Yep.
I think if you're right, pass it on, or to make sure that certainly as you grow in a leadership role or any role, that you continue to do that for the people that come next.
Right.
And I certainly, yeah.
I was going to say, sorry, I was going to, it made me think of what you were talking about earlier, is those emails where it's like, hope your family's well and stuff.
Yeah.
But being intentional with your message, like tell people what you're looking for. Don't
Yeah.
hide it in, some sort of like, and I get these messages all the time, which is like, hey, I saw that we are connected to a lot of the same people, so I thought we should be connected. Okay, cool. Yeah. And then I connect, and then it's like, hey, how about some leadership coaching? And it's like, you could have just put that in the, the connection request. That would have been fine
Yeah.
too. Like,
yeah.
Now I kind of feel a little gross, that's your tactic, and you feel like that's an appropriate way. Sorry, what you said triggered me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's a lot about like just being transparent, right? And if you're, if you can lead with value first, like I said, that never goes out of style. That never doesn't work. Like I said, leveraging your network and leveraging your network in the right ways, right? Like you just said, hey, we're connected to a lot of the same people. That means we shouldn't be as well. And then as soon as you accept my connection, I'll start hammering you with what I want.
Yep. Yep.
I think a lot of what I use, so like we have 160 something consultants that work for us, and they're incredible. And they've worked at a lot of different places as well, right? So their networks are pretty extensive.
Exactly. And, leveraging your employees and their networks is extremely valuable. But that's the thing, is as a a salesperson, you're outside of the organization a lot more than you're in it, and and I think that's the hard thing that I would also coach people, especially this year, is to get closer to those teams, because it's a little easier now, because we can just we can just dial them up virtually and learn more about each of those individuals as best you can. Where do they work? Who do they work with? What did they like about that organization? Who do they know there? Are these great places we should be working? I do the same thing with our employees all the time. Who should we be working with? Who do you think would be a great, cool place to work with? And then in that, do you know anybody there, or do you have a brother, sister's uncle that might work there or something? Leveraging the entire team instead of feeling like you're just out there on some tether, wistfully wandering around in the wind, right?
Yeah, and then you can start doing your research about that organization, right? And Kurt, how cool of a place for you guys, and to get to that spot where you start asking who would be cool to work with, right? And that's your account list, is who would be cool to work with.
Literally is our account list. Like who do the employees want to work with? Because for me, it's always been secular. It's like a circle, right? So it's like, if I get good employees that want to work on cool stuff, and then they get the cool stuff, they stay at the company. And the more they stay at the company, the more this other companies want to work with cool people like that. Like to me, it seems pretty simple.
Yeah, I think I got the sense from you early on too. Like, you guys take great pride in the experience that you create for your employees.
Yep.
And we do too. I think top down from our organization, it's one of our core values, is our employee experience, right? And so, but for me personally, I take great pride in the assignments that I put my consultants on, and the environments that we put them in. And they're not always perfect. I mean, right? It's not all fairy tales and rainbows, but for the most part, is we try to keep our partners ones that respect us and value our consultants as much as we do. And there's a ton of them in town. Like, again, there's more great organizations to work with in town than there are not.
Yeah.
I truly believe. And like I said, whether that's a Minneapolis thing or Twin Cities thing, or I've just been fortunate with who we work with. But
well, yeah. But again, I mean, if the mountain was smooth, you couldn't climb it. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's great. I like that.
yeah,
Uh, no, and so some other things that have been working. I think video is really, really popular right now, or getting there. So I've actually been using Sales Reach, Josh Beatty's product, maybe a year now, and they just rolled out embedded video, so you can host and embed video. I've been doing that a lot over the last month when reaching out, and whether it's reaching out to new people or people in my network already. So I do a combo of things of if I reach out on LinkedIn, the link is already there. It kind of creates a GIF that says, "Hey, it's Ryan reaching out." Um, and then, or in an email, I can do something similar, but with the Sales Reach platform, and I'm sure you put a link in it or go and watch Josh Feedy's interview with you several weeks ago. But Sales Reach is just a really cool platform where ultimately now I create a video. I say, "Hi, Kurt, haven't seen you in a while. Saw the last, live YouTube video you did with Paul DeBettings. It was great. Really, really great conversation. Loved all of his tactics about LinkedIn. I'd love to connect with you again soon. Can we touch base?" Right. And then with Sales Reach, the difference with Sales Reach is you click on the video and it goes to the video in my Sales Reach platform,
yep.
which then I can have assets. It's almost a web page I've created for Kurt. Right.
Right. It's
And
a
that's really the value.
customized sort of holding ground that you can customize right to that contact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, the way I've used it, especially early on this year, Kurt, is trying to add value, like I said, to my clients and prospects. And some of that was how to navigate working with your kids from home, how to run a Kanban board with your children, right? Agile in the home type things. And there was these great articles or videos, and those would be the assets that I had in my Sales Reach. It wasn't SDG is so great, or here's our website. It was, hey, it looks like you're navigating this work from home life too. Or especially, obviously, if I know people, I think, like I said, if I've never asked you about your kids before a pandemic, I probably shouldn't start now. Um, but if I've got those relationships, which I do with a lot of my clients, it was like, hey, here's some value that I've gotten from this article or information. Thought you would use it as well. So um, I think that's a really great tool. Another one, or maybe ask you a question. Have you seen things that have worked when reaching out to you, Kurt, or have you seen more video prospecting, I guess?
I haven't seen as much video prospecting, at least to me, but people that are in our industry, peers like yourself, I have seen they're using it more. And I find that the things that, back to your point, the things that have really been working is that delivering of value, and that value could be anything from your network, just thought contributorship, right, in general, and making the right connections. And part of it is about knowing where you want to be and where you want to go. So for like our organization, for example, just like you said, not every partnership is going to be a great fit. But how do I be a good referrer to people
Yeah,
around me, right? How do I know enough about the people that are in the same space as me so I can be someone who can refer this potential, job that I've got here with these folks won't be a good fit for us, but I think it'll be a good fit for somebody else. So it's not even just about trying to build a network of potential clients. It's potential referral networks. And that's worked really well for us too. We've gotten a lot of folks from places that are similar to ours in some fashion, calling us up and saying, "Hey, we're not really good at this part of this. Do you want to just take it and do it, or maybe partner on it?" And that's been
yeah,
really great. And we're also part of this larger nationwide network called the Nostos Network, with places like Zeus Jones and Be Found Online and Conscious
okay,
Minds. What's great is that a lot of these areas are SEO places, they're social media places, they're branding places, like all these things that we don't do. And
yeah,
What's great is that I can, if I'm running into a client and they're like, yeah, by the way, we're going to need some branding for this. I'm like, hey, I got, I've got 3 or 4 places in my network I can introduce you to. Now, of course, as part of this network, you do get a percentage for finder's fee or whatever.
Yeah.
But half of the time, I don't even take the finder. It's like, if they could be successful, like, great,
Yeah.
and and vice versa. So it's not even just about that, but finding other organizations that I can partner with on that networking has been really helpful as well.
Yeah.
Not just trying to like be like, this is mine, get away, don't look at my
Yeah,
paper.
absolutely. I think two things. Yeah, two things there, Kurt. I think, well, maybe first and foremost, like the abundance mentality, right? I think um, anybody, and I've got great connections with organizations here in town that I quote unquote compete with, but they're doing it the right way as well. And associating myself with them or vice versa, I don't think hurts me at all. And it's
Nope.
like you said, I'm not. And at the end of the day, we're all in sales, we're all trying, like, we're not all that altruistic, but if I can help my clients, it ultimately will help me, whether it's good faith or it's the
Yep.
next time an opportunity comes around. And then, yeah, the other piece is I love being a resource for like whether it's finding a plumber or,
Yeah.
right.
Right. Somebody to hang your
Any,
Christmas lights.
yeah, any way you can help. Again, it just shows that you're willing to do those things, and that it all leads to a good path, a good karma, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
But
Well,
I truly believe in that.
because that's what I've said. Is I think this year more than anything that I've seen work for a business or even for an individual is just staying top of mind, because we're all
Yeah,
so much busier. Because just like you said, we've got all the kids at home. The house is now a restaurant and a barber shop, and
yeah,
all these things, and so your time is so much more compacted. So if you're not getting right to the point right away and delivering value, I had somebody reach out to me on LinkedIn the other day, and they're like, how would you like 80 new leads this month? And I'm like, no,
yeah,
I don't want.
yeah,
What would I do with 80 new leads?
yeah,
I'd probably ruin my reputation by not responding to them fast
yeah.
enough. Um,
That's a great point. Yeah,
and so to your point about being someone who is trying to bring in new opportunities to the organization, I think it's really important that you really focus on bringing in the right opportunities, because you're going to create so much more work for yourself when you're not bringing in the right opportunities. I mean, how many times have you, Ryan, been like, I know there's a way we can make this work, and you spend so much time on it, then finally in the end you're like, oh, damn it, like,
yeah,
it's just not gonna work. And I spent so much time, and I forgot to email these 3 people back, and right.
yeah,
So catching yourself early this year, especially for me, has been something I've really worked hard on, is to catch myself and be like, wait a second, is this going to take up the next 3 weeks of my life, and
yeah.
neglect all the other things that are out there, and weighing those pros and cons about my time, you know?
Yeah, that's really, really great advice, Kurt. And I think it's something that's taken me that, well, shoot, I'm still figuring that out. But it's easier said than done, like I said, when you're starting your career, to pass up on opportunities that aren't the right fit. But the more I think for me, it's one of those, you can't really learn it until you go through it and go, wow, that was a colossal learning experience. Um, and so you get better at those things. But to your point, like, I can't believe how many emails I get for organizations trying to sell me the exact same thing that I sell, right? And again, it just seems, whether it's lazy or it's a transactional thing. But oftentimes, like you talked about, you respond, and I think so often we're trained in sales to just get a response, and getting the response is the win, right? Because then you get them. But I don't think that's the case, at least not for me. Is if if the response I get is take me off your list or unsubscribe or get away from me, that's not a great response. Like that almost takes them off my forever prospect list. Um, and if I'm providing value and I'm sending information that helps, and maybe they're not responding because they're too busy, and I'm hopefully optimistic that that's the case, that they're getting it, that they're seeing it, that they're seeing value from it, and they just haven't had time to get back to me. And so that's ultimately better than a beat it response. And so I'm trying to drive towards that so that when I do get a response, or I do stay persistent and patient, that at least I'm creating a positive touch point every time I reach out. Right. And I think all those positive touch points lead to, okay, I trust this guy, or I have enough trust to take a phone call.
Yeah.
I don't know if meetings are easier now. I think there's a lot of Zoom fatigue. I also think, the excuse to go get a beer at happy hour was enough to get someone there sometimes.
Yep.
So that it's a challenge out there for sure. I don't want to discount that by any means. But probably one of the last things, one of our favorite sayings at SCG and mine personally, intent trumps technique, right? So whether it's video or the perfect email, you could have the best technique, but if your intent isn't genuine and you're not trying to help your clients or customers or people in general, at some point you're going to be caught and it's not going to work out great. And so I think getting creative right now, getting out of your comfort zone, trying new things, getting on a live YouTube call with your friend Kurt, right? These things work, especially if your intent is there.
Yeah.
And you'll find ways to make it work. And like I said, so even all the tools, all the tricks, they're mostly that, right? Tools and tricks to get you closer. And I think maybe one of the hard parts is all of us would like to think that we're better in person, right? Yep. And I think we all probably are better in person when you can read body language and you can make eye contact and you can really get to know someone a lot better. But unfortunately, it's not the space that we're in, and quotas aren't going away, and businesses are trying to stay afloat, and so you got to find new ways. And so the Zoom thing is, at first it was really neat, like, hey, we can still see each other. And somewhere in the middle was like, wow, this is awful, and I'm not turning on my camera anymore. And back to I think, as long as I think this is going to take, and I am extremely optimistic for next year, business wise. I think all of us collectively as an industry or Twin Cities, certainly I see we're getting better at this remote thing. And I think it's only going to open more opportunities for what we do, Kurt, in terms of software development and opportunities to help maybe other clients that were out of our geography or weren't as open to working with consultants in the past. So I'm really optimistic in terms of business and us continuing. And I think we've seen it over the last 7 months that we've been able to more than stay afloat to work through this. But I'm even more optimistic that I will see you at a coffee shop next summer or at some point.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I do think we're going to get back to, I don't think this is going to be a new normal. I think there will be changes, and I think there'll be optimistic changes, and I think there'll be more flexibility. And I think that's great. But I think most of us want to be back together and collaborating. And so I'm very optimistic for that. And so from my perspective, I think these tools and hopefully only make me better at my role and responding and connecting with people. And then the last thing I know myself for sure will have a level of appreciation when I can get in front of people. And I've had a coffee meeting or two, or certainly a close social network, and which has been great. But I sort of missed that first blind date with a customer, and working through the social awkwardness into a breakthrough, into connecting, into making a lifelong friend. So I truly believe we'll still have plenty of that moving forward.
That's awesome. Well, Ryan, I want to thank you for joining me today. If I want to connect with you, you mentioned LinkedIn. You're pretty active there. Is that a good place to find you?
Yeah, I think that's probably first and foremost. Facebook has been relegated to pictures of my kids for my mom. And that's probably the two biggest places I'd spend any time. But yeah, LinkedIn. And I'd welcome any connection. Like I said, if anybody wants to further the conversation, more than open to it. I'm really passionate about building relationships and
awesome.
and then finding a way to sell after that, I guess.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Well, Ryan, thanks so much. I will have you back on the show soon.
That's awesome. Thanks so much, Kurt.
Thank you. Okay, so I want to just close out the show today by saying thanks to Ryan. I appreciate his insight. And join us again here. We're going to be live again on Friday with Carl from the Bureau of Digital. We're going to be talking about all things virtual live events. So thanks for joining. Make sure you hit the subscribe and the like button, all that stuff down there. That's what you're supposed to do, right? So we'll see you soon.